something right now.
Role reversal for Joseph W. Brady, who is the one being interviewed by Tom Pinard and Jim Conkle on this report.
I'll tell you, when you get a call from Tom Pinard and he wants to come down to your office with Jim Conkle, you never turn down the opportunity. We just had to schedule it. I mean, I've known Tom since I came here in '88. He's been up here since 1957. He is very well known in the Navy, owned the Mountaineer Progress up there in Wrightwood. I mean, well acclaimed. And if you're lucky enough to get on his list of people that he sends an email to, I think probably maybe 15, 20 times a day. Very, very intelligent, knows what he's talking about, very conservative. We've always had a great friendship. I will say that in my first year at Victor Valley Community College, when the college was in very, very serious trouble, I mean, we had a $4 million structural deficit. We were on probation. I called Tom and asked him to meet me at the Red Robin, and sat down and said, Tom, what do I do as a trustee? Tom was a trustee many years before I was, and somebody that I could look up to and say, give me the real deal here, you know. Next to him is Jim Conkle. I mean, Jim has driven Route 66 more times than probably anybody I know. I call him Mr. Route 66. He's very active out in the Pinion Hills, Phelan, Wrightwood area. He's very active on out here. You know, again, a very good friend to so many people out here. And he's always been in the publication business, but in the last 6 months he created just a great publication here called the Pulse of the High Desert. Covers the High Desert region. He's now going to the Lucerne Valley, and so it's just a great opportunity. When Tom and Jim said, hey, can we come on down, they know that I'm running for re-election at the college. They both care deeply about the college, so I thought we'd just sit down and maybe have them ask me questions, and we can have some dialogue about Tom and their feeling about the college. I mean, the college is our asset. It's our number one educational deal. So I'll leave it up to Tom and Jim.
Okay. Joe, it's good to be here, and I do remember that Red Robin. You asking me to come down and chat with you about your plans for and what you could expect as a trustee at Victor Valley Community College District. And the bottom line is we had a good talk, and the college district and the college in the college district was in a world of trouble. You guys, not you, but previous boards, previous administrations had run the college into the ground, and that was a shame. And you came in, and over your term, and Brandon's on the board, and others, you guys have made the college whole, and brought in good scope and good direction. One of the things, Joe, I'd like to ask you about. It seems like we've lost the idea of higher education, and that. To a lot of us, going back, I was in the first student body at Victor Valley College when they opened in 1961. I'd just gotten out of the Air Force. And the bottom line is, that was our chance. The young guys, I was 22, others in the valley, we had a chance to go to college here and across the high desert. And the idea that it's a remedial program to help those along that didn't do well in high school, well, you know, that's fine if they're college bound. If not, they should be going to an adult school, you know, at one of the high schools at night. In 1989, I was on a panel to Antelope Valley and Victor Valley trying to bring a university to the region. And we didn't make it because we had a serious recession and everything went south on us by the early 90s. But we were trying. And so far, we still don't have a university or state college here on the high desert. We got 400,000 or 500,000 people, and we still don't. So I'd like to hear from you what your thoughts are as far as what I guess I'm raising a point. And you're running for re-election, so what do you think?
Tom, I would hope someday that we would have a four-year university. 12, 13 years ago, a group that has a lot of land holdings up here in the high desert, Strata Investments out of San Diego, had a big piece of property out near Cal City, right where the brand new 58 was put in, at about 10,000 acres. They gave our foundation 600 of those acres under a stipulation of XYZ, and they actually seeded the foundation. So there were three members from this county. So there were three members from North LA County. There were three members from Kern County, which took in the Ridgecrest area, and there were three members from this county: Joe Range, Scott Nassif, and myself. And we met for a period of probably 3 years. Gail Knight, Pete Knight's wife or spouse, was on it. We had some very notable, the chancellor from Ridgecrest, from the Corso, the community college, was on it. I think, to get back to your question, no, we don't use the word higher education like we should. I think the first thing that we had to do at Victor Valley College as a board of trustees, one, we had to come together. Two, we had to hire the right CEO and president. I mean, that was where the mistake is made. You know, if you're on a city council, the most important person you hire is a city manager. If you are on the board of supervisors, your most important person is a CAO. The employees work for that person, and they work for you. So we had to get some real strong leadership. And candidly, I felt at the time when I came in 2011 and 12 that the constituency groups, you can call them unions, you can call them whatever you want, absolutely controlled the front office, and they controlled the board. And it was unfortunate over a period of time. And then we had major fights amongst the board members. I mean, it was pretty well known that one of your trustees that lives out near you, John R. Pinkerton III, and I mean, we fought like cats and dogs. We've actually sat in this conference room before, and I call him my sixth brother. We had to figure out as board members that our most important, what we're there to do is take care of our client, and our client is a student. So I think that the day will come, and it will probably be 30 years down the road. And I know some people watching this aren't going to want to see. We've got the relationship with Cal State. We've had our three highest graduating classes in the last 3 years, which I'm proud of as a trustee. The biggest issue that we fight is that we train people, we educate them, and then they leave here. And you call that brain drain. And with the amount of jobs coming on up here, and not everybody's going to go to Stanford or Harvard or USC or UCLA, but the programs now that we have over 100 programs at the college, and they're bringing on programs that we need. For instance, Mitsubishi Cement, all the cement companies out there need industrial employees. Okay, we went out and got a forklift. We've gotten all kinds of tools to help train them. We know that there's 80,000 people short a year in truck driving. What do? We just bought 2 semis to go teach people how to drive. And you can make $100,000 a year being a truck driver. We also have the public facility, out in Apple Valley, the fire and all that security. All those programs are at our public safety facility. Have you ever been out there?
No, but I've heard about it.
It is absolutely gorgeous. It is. It's just a gorgeous facility. It was finished right after I got here. It was about a $30 million investment. But since then, I mean, we've got a new automotive building, we've got a new one-stop, we just broke ground on the Educational Conference Center and the athletic facility. I'd like to see us expand the athletic facility. We've got the Pinard buildings. We have built a lot of infrastructure out on that campus that needed to be done, and I think was not taken care of, rightly so, by your comment, that the college was just an absolute mess. I do believe that someday we will have that higher education here, but right now we've brought stability. We've got Dr. Walden has done a great job with creating the right team. So I'm proud that we're stable. What I have found, and you've been in government on both sides, and so has Jim, it doesn't move as quick as we want on the private sector side. That's, I think, the biggest issue I've ever had. You know, I want to see things happen right away, and they don't. You got to get the right people in place, and then you got to get them indoctrinated in how you want, and then things will happen slowly but surely. So,
Joe, I'd like to first off say that I think when you got on the board, there was damage control. We had a sinking ship. And that ship is no longer sinking. That ship is now cruising forward. And I have to tell you that having a son that graduated from here and went on and got his master's degree and works in the high desert in education, this college is very important to us. As a member of the community, I can tell you that the image that the college has today and what it had 20 years ago and 15 years ago and 10 years ago, today it's much improved. And I thank you and all the other board members for that. And I have to ask you, of all the things that you've done in the time you've been on, what has been some of your successes and your happiness, and what have been, if you felt there were any failures?
I think our first success, and the first time I remember a 5-0 vote, was when we hired Dr. Roger Wagner. That was number one. To your comment about a sinking ship, it's kind of funny that you say that. I've always said we were like an aircraft carrier out in the middle of the ocean and nobody was in control, okay? and that's sad to say. And I walked into a hornet's nest, and every time I kind of peeled back some, I was told you couldn't do that. I mean, the unions came after me 3 or 4 times. I mean, they came after me on my logo, they came after me on my election. When we hired Dr. Wagner, and then he dealt with servant leadership. And then I think the second best thing that we did was we hired Dr. Walden. So when Dr. Walden, so Dr. Wagner started with us in 2014, and he retired in 2018. And we didn't realize at the time that he was having some health issues, which he is today. He's got stage 4 cancer, so we pray every day that he's going to make it. When we went through the interview process and narrowed down the 4 candidates for this term, and Dr. Walden, when Dr. Walden said, I want to retire here, and I want to be politically involved, and I want to get out and meet people, that's what it takes. So we've got a disconnect with industry out there. And the only way you're going to get that connection with industry is to be out there. So one of the things that I'm probably the most proud of now, our board has goals. Believe it or not, I can say to people listening and watching, we each have goals. So my goal is number 3. It's community involvement. And it basically is connecting the college to industry. So with the help of Latrice Johnson in our office here, and with the help of Michelle and Gabrielle over in Dr. Walden's office, and Robert Sewell and Dr. Walden, we've had, I think, 5 lunches so far. The first one was with the media, the second one with residential real estate, next one was with commercial real estate. There's one I know I'm forgetting. The next one coming up is with general contractors. And they are private lunches that have been held upstairs at the SAC. 25 people. Dr. Walden is there. They're 2 hours, and it gives them a chance to sit down and ask questions of us. It gives us a chance to have Dr. Todd Scott and Dr. Mackenzie Tarango and Dr. Walden and Robert Sewell talk about what we're doing. You know, I had to terminate somebody many years ago, and this person said to me in their exit interview something I've never forgotten. You can't sell a secret. Well, if we as the college are not getting out there and telling these students in high school what they can do, that those that are not going to go to a 4-year university, if we don't get the word out, so what we're doing is we're getting the word out to each one of these industries. We'll be meeting with aerospace next year. We'll be meeting with the civil engineers on up here. We'll be meeting with the developers, and piece by piece. It's taken a lot more time. So what we do is we take the data that we have here. We probably have more data than anybody. And then with Latrice's help, we send out invitations. We coordinate with the college. It's a 2-hour lunch. And what's come from it is a better understanding from industry on what we're doing, and a better understanding from our standpoint of what we need to do. So the college has, you know, and I'll say one thing. COVID was a disaster for the world, but for the college, we were able to use that to really market hard. We got some extra money from the government to do it. The college made over 19,000 calls last year to students to ask them if they're coming back, why they're not coming back, if they're coming back. It's a hard thing. I mean, a lot of people we know up here are sitting on their couch. You know, we have almost 58% per capita of adult welfare and social needs. So those are, I think, the 3 things: the 2 hirings of Dr. Wagner and Dr. Walden, and then this goal that I've got. And I'm glad that we have goals. It keeps our feet to the fire. So it's just not, we're just not showing up and just rubber stamping stuff. So
what are you going to do the next series that you're reelected, and what do you see that's on your plate that you need to do?
I want to see the Educational Conference Center come to fruition. that is a real big deal. One, I think it's going to allow a lot of different groups to be able to use a facility that we don't have up here. I don't think people want to continue to go over to the fairgrounds in that part of town to have dinners and banquets and things like that. We are looking very seriously at student housing. We believe that there's a huge need for student housing on that here. And I think that as I went through the list of industries, I want to be able to do, finish out the first cycle, which were 12. I want to be able to do another cycle at 12. So we were trying to do them monthly. I thought it was easy to do these things monthly. I've got a business to run, and Dr. Walden has a schedule to deal with. So I think that, it'll get me through, 2 or 3 years, and then we'll take a look. I think the last thing I really want to do is I want to find that person or persons that want to run this next time when my seat's available, that's going to be sure that all the work that we put together continues that way. Because Tom, and Jim, as board members, all it takes is you have to count to 3. And all it takes is you get 3 bad apples back on in there, and all this work that everybody's done, from Henderson to Tarpley to Brandon Wood to Sharon Pinkerton, myself, goes down the drain. That's what breaks your heart, and that's what kind of makes you mad. So, yeah.
Well, let me throw back into the idea of, I know you're focusing on Victor Valley College campus. I'm a little surprised. I don't know about student housing for a community college site, but that's
that's a new angle.
Yeah, I'll let that
Tom's
ride.
going to drive back on up to Rywood Day and say,
Yeah,
student
right.
housing. Wow.
The district is the district, and you operate a college on Bear Valley Road, but you also and I looked at some of your materials in the past. Back when I was on the board, we were doing outreach. We had just closed, unfortunately, because of George closing. We closed the George campus, and we had a campus actually at George Air Force Base. But we, at this time, were working to set up outreach classes out in Phelan at Serrano High School. We were talking about storefronts and even Victorville and Hesperia. I don't see any of that happening, and I see a focus on the Victor Valley College campus on Bear Valley Road to the extreme, and it seems like it's everything related to the Victor Valley Community College District is focused on the current college campus, and I would think that over a long range, 4 years down the road, if this is your last term coming up, you would be moving in the direction of where we have to go. One of the things that in our past years back, the 80s, we were talking about a technical college, a second technical college that would really focus and bring the Silicon Valley type of environment to the valley. And we bought a site out in Phelan. Now it's West Victorville, East Phelan. It's right on the line. But we've got I think you still own a site for a college out there that was going to be the technical college. And I would hope that, and this is not, it can be a question if you want to get into it. I would hope that you and the board, as the board, looking, you're in total, you're not operating the college, you're operating the community college district, that you would be looking down the road and there's 400,000 people out here. And we need to upgrade. I looked through some of the statistics that the college puts out, and the welfare and the income levels of this valley are shocking. I mean, they're absolutely shocking. They're that low, 40% below California's average.
Absolutely.
I mean, 40. I read that statistic, Joe, and it blows your mind.
Tom, and I will tell you this. It's like
so
a dirty little secret that none of our elected officials want to deal with.
Well,
they don't want to deal with it.
But see, there's the college board, 5 elected officials, could very possibly be the stimulus to get the city councils and the Board of Supervisors members to finally focus on the fact that we've got to do something. It's enough. Is it enough to train truck drivers and guys to work at the cement plant or whatever, or are we trying to get Jim's son his 2 years so he can go on, get his degree, and come back here and make be an asset in the valley as an educated asset? Not that everybody needs to go to college, but we've got to get this valley moving.
Tom, you make not only a great question but a great point. The college does own the 160 acres out there on the line. We call it West Victorville. We own 55 acres on Main Street near 395. We're in Hesperia by an address, and I wish I could tell you what that looks like, because we are currently negotiating something right now, but until it goes through, so we're under an NDA on that site. There's a bunch of different opportunities that the college is looking at. I mean, Dr. Wagner, we actually have classes down at Hesperia High. There's all kinds of things that are going on, and you obviously bring up a good point. If we're not getting that word out, now the people down in Hesperia know that they have those classes down there, and the 19 high schools that we deal with know where we're doing classes, and because they're kind of our feeder. I mean, that's where you bring your people in, your future students. So Hesperia is absolutely a priority. I wish I could tell you what we're doing right now, but I can't, because then people would say, wow, we never thought about that. But Dr. Walden and his staff, it's huge. And one of these days, I'd like to get you both on out there. Maybe we can get Terry out there to take a look at the public safety facility. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. The last one is that we're actually out at SCLA. We're at the former George Air Force Base. We are in a building with another, with a company called Squadron. So that building was owned by Sterling Development, and we entered into a lease with Sterling for a portion of that building and did a bunch of tenant improvements in there. And we're currently working with the county on trying to balance out the checkbook. I could say our former supervisor took a lot of credit on that building being done, but they never put any money in, and the college put all the money in, so we put like close to $2 million in. The building was then bought by Squadron, and we have, I think, another 8.5 or 9 years left on that lease out there, and that's where our industrial programs are being done. So we're constantly retuning. We've got relationships with ComAv on the in the airline business. I mean, we have classes for people that want to work airframe mechanics out at SCLA. We've got an actual facility that we use on out there. So, with the 100 programs that we've got, it's hard to characterize them in a short period like this. But I think what you're telling me is that one of these days with Terry and maybe with Dr. Walden, because I'd love for you both to get to meet him, and we go on out to the Public Safety Center and grab a cup of coffee and go on over to SCLA and so you can see it. I think the Baldy Mesa site someday is going to be a reality as the valley grows. So the valley is now about 500,000 people, but that also includes Barstow. Our region, which really goes out to Hellendale, we go out to the LA County line, we pick up Wrightwood. Then there's about 100 registered voters outside of Wrightwood that go into LA County that fall within Pinkerton's district, Sharon Pinkerton's district. Then we go out to Johnson Valley, which most people don't know where that is, and then up, and then cross below Barstow and pick up Hellendale. It's about 2,000 square miles is what we got, and it's about 400,000, but the whole valley is about 500. So I think there's all kinds of possibilities. It just all becomes a timing issue anymore, and then it comes down to dollars and cents. But Dr. Walden is absolutely a huge supporter, and then so is the board about doing something down in Hesperia. We may have to change what the plan was because of how the site would work, and to find something that might be a little bit more palatable. So.
Be watching for additional segments of Joseph W. Brady being interviewed by Tom Pinard and Jim Conkle. Thank you for joining us this time around.